Hello everyone and welcome back. It's been a few months since I recorded a class for SPU, and Susan Liebel, who is the dean, was nice enough to keep bugging me to come back with another class, and I'm afraid there were moments when I thought everything I have to teach about marketing I already put in the previous lessons. But lately I've been thinking a lot about a certain subject, working on a long article about it and thinking about how it can apply to my clients in terms of marketing. And the working title of it is a little bit crude, and my working title is, "What are you willing to suck at?" And it came about because I read an article about Jose Bautista, the outfielder for the Toronto Blue Jays, who suddenly blossomed into one of the game's most feared sluggers, a man who hit 54 home runs in one season when the next closest hitter had 40, I believe. And the question was, since this guy had been kicking around in the major leagues since about 2003, the question sort of is, what happened? And in this article, which I'm going to give you the URL somewhere here on the screen, Terry Lamar, one of our video specialists here, is going to do that for me, so you can read the article yourself. But he cited the book Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell. Malcolm Gladwell also wrote The Tipping Point and Blink and several other essays in the New Yorker that were really very, very thoughtful and thought-provoking. And in Outliers, he's talking about what makes a person successful or outstanding or different. Gladwell examines the factors that contribute to high levels of success. I'm reading from the Wikipedia summary rather than try to read to you from the book. Throughout the publication, Gladwell repeatedly mentions the 10,000-hour rule, claiming that the key to success in any field is, to a large extent, a matter of practicing a specific task for a total of around 10,000 hours. So, this struck a chord with me, this idea. One of the examples that Gladwell uses in the book is the Beatles. Talks about the Beatles, and everybody probably knows that the Beatles, when they were young men, very young, teenagers really, went to Hamburg, Germany, and played in some awful seedy clubs for years, and used to play, I think, like 5 shows a day, something like that. And they were sort of a scruffy skiffle band when they went over there, but they played over 1,200 times from 1960 to 64, amassing more than 10,000 hours of playing time. And what happened, obviously, was they got great. They got great. They got incredibly tight, incredibly good, and had to come up with fresh material all the time. And when they returned to Liverpool to play in like the Cavern Club and everything, they caused a sensation, and of course, in a very short time, they caused a sensation in the entire world. And Bautista, the baseball player, talks about how he spent those 10,000 hours basically practicing hitting and studying hitting, and so his explanation for how he got good is not really a magic one. But there's a problem, I think, with this 10,000 hour formula, and that is that most people are not willing to be terrible at something for that long in order to get good at it. Psychologically, it's just devastating. I read this article about Roy Scheider, the late actor, the one who plays the police chief in Jaws, the one whose famous line is, "We're going to need a bigger boat." And Roy Scheider said in this interview that he went to 122 auditions before he got his first acting job. And I remember when I read that at the time thinking, how many people would have given up after 25 auditions? How many after 50? How many after they've been sent home 100 times would have said, you know, screw this, it's not for me, I'm going to get a job selling insurance or whatever it is. I think that almost everyone would have given up. And I saw, too, an article, an interview, actually, with Jack Nicklaus and Johnny Miller, the famous golfers. And Miller said that years after his playing days had pretty much wrapped up, Nicklaus told him a secret about winning majors. And Miller said, God, I wish he had told me before. And he said that the majors are the easiest ones to win, the easiest golf tournaments to win, because most of the other players beat themselves psychologically and then give up. So you really only have to play against 2 or 3 or 5 people who are hanging in there. The rest of them will eliminate themselves. I thought that was kind of startling as well. And all of that really led me to a quote from Ira Glass, the radio personality. He's probably most famous for his work with National Public Radio, NPR. And here's the quote, and I thought it was so striking. Nobody tells this to people who are beginners. I wish somebody had told me. All of us who do creative work, we get into it because we have good taste. But there is this gap. For the first couple of years you make stuff, it's just not that good. It's trying to be good. It has potential, but it's not. But your taste, the thing that got you into the game, is still killer. And your taste is why your work disappoints you. A lot of people never get past this phase. They quit. Most people I know who do interesting, creative work went through years of this. We know our work doesn't have this special thing that we want it to have. We all go through this. And if you are just starting out or you're still in this phase, you got to know that it's normal. And the most important thing you can do is do a lot of work. Put yourself on a deadline so that every week you finish one piece. It's only by going through a volume of work that you will close that gap and your work will be as good as your ambitions. And I took longer to figure out how to do this than anyone I've ever met. It's going to take a while. It's normal to take a while. You just got to fight your way through. Well, that's a perfect description of me as a young man wanting to write the great American novel. I had terrific taste. I knew what was good. I loved and appreciated Shakespeare and Dickens and Emily Dickinson and F. Scott Fitzgerald and all of that. My taste in literature was very, very refined. And then when I would try to write a piece of fiction, it stunk. And I wasn't willing at that time, or didn't know at that time, that it was normal that it stunk, and that I would have to go through years of it stinking before I could get good at it. Now, I found, some measure of success in other forms of writing. I was a journalist for 15 years. I do a lot of marketing, writing, and essays now. And I've got a blog that has 7,000 subscribers and so on. But, that kind of writing really is the other side of the coin, reflects this same rule, which is that I spent all of those years as a journalist. I had to write, okay? The newspaper was going at, 6 o'clock in the morning, whether I was finished or not. So you have a job, they're giving you a weekly paycheck, you have to bang it out. So I had to do this for hours and hours and days and days and years and got good at it, okay? Whereas my ambitions in the area of fiction remain unfulfilled because I wasn't willing to put in the 10,000 hours of stinking at it. Okay, so the message that I want to give in this lesson is that in starting your own law practice and being a solo and learning how to market your practice, you got to be willing to be terrible at it for a while. I have a lot of clients who do public seminars, and they do them once, and there's 50 people that come to the seminar, and they give the seminar, and only a few of the people sign up for appointments, and then none of them, let's say, sign up to become a client, and there's no revenue. And my client might be so disappointed that they give up, and they say, oh, this seminar thing isn't for me, it doesn't work, or I'm no good at it, or whatever. Well, you got to be willing to hang in there and do it and do it and do it and do it until you get good at it. And it's the same thing with writing blog posts. It's the same thing with taking speaking opportunities. It's the same thing with much of the stuff that goes into marketing. You got to be willing to suck at it for a while. So this is a short lesson, but it's an important one. And for all of you out there, if you're struggling in starting your practice, if you're struggling with the marketing aspect of it, the lesson is, and of course it's a wider lesson that applies to virtually everything in your life, is you've got to be willing to stink at the thing and work on it for 10,000 hours. You know, as a friend of mine says, I'm sorry, the elevator to the top floor is out of order. You're going to have to take the stairs one step at a time like everybody else, and that's how you get to the top. So take this lesson to heart. Go ahead and do the things that you need to do. Do them for 10,000 hours. You're going to be great at it.